All right, everyone. Welcome to the third episode already of the Homey podcast. I'm here today. I'm Abe. I'm here with Emil,
Hi.
as always. And today we have a special guest on the show, and that's Dino.
Hi everyone.
Hi. What do you do, Homey?
I create content for the website focused on Best Buy guides, some user stories, and things like that.
Yeah, so we call you the smart home journalist, right? You do all the
Something like that, yeah.
all the
That's my official title, although I think it extends a bit beyond it.
Sure. Yeah, no, Dino's here today to talk with us about the Best Buy guides. Started with a few, and now I think we have
Over 20, I think.
something like that.
That's a lot already.
28.
Wow.
28
Exactly.
already. Yeah, everything from smart light bulbs to washing machines now, I think, as well.
Yeah, the
Yeah, so
the final sections are all home appliances.
yeah, no. So basically, everything you need in your smart home. So we'll talk about that later on in the podcast. But to start, dashboards. We showed it last podcast.
Uh-huh.
Since then, the beta has gone live.
It's live. In beta, of course.
In beta,
I
everyone
think now,
is
when we're recording this, like 1 week or
Yeah.
something.
about a week ago.
Yeah. Of course, we've had it for a long... No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Don't want to make anyone jealous here.
We had it for a while, but we all had some time to play around with it. What I really liked when after it went to beta on the forum, you also created a special section for dashboards.
Yeah.
And I love the activity there. Just people excited about the widgets, developers actually starting to integrate the widgets into their apps.
Yeah, felt a bit like the early days of Homey
yeah.
again, with the whole community coming together, giving feedback, some people, contributing by making and coding stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we sort of only barely scratched the surface because, it's been live now for a week.
Yeah.
And now we really see some apps being published with their widgets in it. And it's super fun to see.
Yeah. So for the people who don't know, for the beta, you install either the Test Flight app or the beta app in the Play Store,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
so you only need the latest stable version for the Homey Pro firmware
Yeah.
or Homey Cloud, but that you don't need to update that. And then only the beta version of the mobile app, so iOS or Android.
Yeah.
And on our website, you can find instructions how to. If you go to the forum dashboards, like there's a mega thread. It's
On how
all
it
written
works.
down, like how to get the beta.
Yeah.
And maybe you have to be quick a bit because the test flight is limited to 10,000 users. And we're about 8,000 or 9,000 already.
Oh, it's
So
pretty
at some point, Apple won't allow sort of new users, which is sort of a, stupid, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
So yeah, and so as explained as well, it works with columns, and then you can add widgets.
Mhm.
Something that we explained as well is that apps will be able to have widgets.
Yeah, so there are system widgets,
Yeah.
or just Homey widgets, basically the built-in stuff like devices, flows, moods, insights, logic, a lot of stuff. And then apps can add widgets to that as well. So one app can have one or more widgets that you can also add on your dashboard.
And I saw as well in the Homey App Store, when you have the App Store page, it also shows which widgets are available with the app.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the app page, you can see the widget, and we've also updated the search or like the browse apps interface.
Mhm.
On the left, you have this column with all these filters. So previously, you could filter on I want to see apps with Zigbee, and now you can also filter apps with dashboard widgets. So at a glance, you can see all the apps that have widgets in there.
Dino, have you already played around with the dashboards?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's getting there bit by bit. I like the the last thing I did was implement a web frame for like a weather radar map for Macedonia, for my country, because through the summer it was all heat waves. So I wanted to see how it looks like, and it's pretty neat, pretty dope.
Awesome. And I think for you, Emil, you already made a whole project of, as you said before, gluing an iPad to your wall.
Yeah. I've been pretty active in dashboards, making a few widgets. So,
Yeah.
so one for my sauna, for the Rituals perfume diffuser,
Yeah.
still one of my favorite sort of stupid smart home devices. Also made a widget for rain radar for the Dutchies buienradar, so you can actually see a chart of when it's going to rain. Very useful here in the Netherlands. But indeed, so I've bought a secondhand iPad Pro for a pretty good deal, and since I think a few months, there's one Chinese company who has sort of reverse engineered the charging protocol. So the
Mhm.
iPad Pro has 3 pads on the back, which was only exclusive for Apple,
Yeah.
until a few months ago when some Chinese engineers were very smart and they figured it out. So this is a magnetic holder that snaps to your iPad, and then it also charges. So I wanted to add that to my wall. And it worked, most to my surprise.
Yeah.
On the forum, I made a thread, like how I did it with some sort of instructions if you also want to replicate that. So
Yeah,
it looks very slick.
it
You
looked
see no
really slick,
cables. It's
yeah.
just a very thin border on the back. And you can also snap the iPad from the wall. So you can just grab it from the wall and then use it on the couch. And then when you're done, you sort of
You
snap
place it back.
snap it
Yeah,
back.
so it just connects magnetically to
Yes.
the wall, and
Yes.
then
And yesterday, I was
Yeah.
playing around with it. I still have to document this, but I think by the time this podcast goes live, I've
Yeah.
updated my post. I got it working that a motion sensor that is connected to Homey sends the motion to Apple Home, and Apple Home then automatically turns on the display of the
awesome.
iPad. So
Yeah.
the iPad is actually very energy saving.
Yeah.
And then when you walk by, then the display will automatically turn
Turns
on
on.
and turn off again after like 10 minutes.
Oh, that's a cool hack or cool.
Yeah, it's sort of a
yeah.
Rube Goldberg machine of,
Yeah.
but that's smart home, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, amazing. Yeah, for me, I started playing around with dashboards. Created. I was looking at what's the best way to organize my dashboards. Hey, is it in regards to device types or rooms, or I've now created
And-
one for like my main floor, and that works pretty great. Nice to have everything in one place. And it just really helps with the partner approval factor.
So much easier.
Yeah,
for them.
since I just can put every device that's that needs to be controlled there, and everything's can easily be found there. Flows, moods, everything. So yeah, amazing.
So what is your plan? Are you going to use like one tablet per floor, or how do you?
Yeah, I think I'll buy the same as you, like a secondhand iPad Pro, and just use that solely for dashboards.
I think the prices are going up for the second
Yeah,
iPads now.
since everyone is using it for dashboards. No, so that's my plan.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, cool to see all the developments. Cool to see the community being so enthusiastic.
Yeah,
We
that's
actually
cool.
had a bit of a problem finding questions for this podcast, since the reactions on the previous podcast were just all people saying, "Hey, I really like dashboards."
Oh, that's good.
But we had some. So
Maybe I can tell something about the stuff we still have planned for
yeah,
dashboard.
sure.
So we're not done yet. We wanted to ship this beta as soon as possible, but we still have a roadmap of upcoming new widgets. So one is the lights widget, where you can select a zone or multiple lights, and then you get one widget that controls all of them. It's really convenient. It's a bit similar to the in the devices tab of the Homey app. You have these zone buttons, and there's also lights.
Yeah.
But now you can sort of make your own. You can select which devices should join there. We're doing the same with thermostats, so you can actually show your thermostats on your dashboard as well. There's an upcoming energy widget
Awesome.
as well, and some other stuff that we keep as a surprise.
Yeah, really cool.
But we're not done yet. And
really cool. So
it's super also fun to see here in the team that, especially me, I was a bit skeptical about dashboards,
Yeah.
but I feel the enthusiasm. Everyone is just thinking of new widgets that adds to their use cases, and somehow dashboard starts solving a lot of problems that we previously had that we didn't have a great solution for. So
amazing. Yeah, very excited to see where it goes. For the next section, let's dive into some smart home news. First thing I wanted to start with is Matter related, and it's IKEA. Of course, part of the CSA, the bigger organization behind Matter, Thread, and Zigbee.
The Connectivity Standards Alliance.
Yeah, the Connectivity Standards Alliance.
Which we're also part of.
Which we're also part of. And they launched a Matter update for their hub. So people will now be able to connect their devices to their IKEA DIRIGERA hub.
Nice.
I think it's called. And
I think it's a Swedish word for conductor.
Yeah.
Like the person in charge of orchestra.
Yeah, no, I love their naming scheme.
Yeah.
Can be confusing at times, can be hard to pronounce, but if you know the meaning behind it, it's really cool. But what I wanted to talk about, of course, it's great that they are now adding Matter support for their ecosystem. But what I was really curious about, what your thoughts are about this subject, is that what we see with a lot of companies that use Matter is they start adding it to their bridges or their hubs instead of it adding it to their devices directly. Like IKEA could also have made the decision, hey, we're now making a light bulb that supports Matter. So, what are your thoughts on the subject?
Yeah, this is sort of the inevitability that they already had Zigbee lights on the
Yeah.
market. So this is by far, I think, from a manufacturer perspective, the way to go. Because the only alternative that they have now is all their new light bulbs should talk Thread instead of Zigbee, or both, and let the customer choose. But that's really hard from a user experience perspective. And then you're in a situation where you have to support both Zigbee light bulbs and your Thread light bulbs, which means you also need a hub that supports both, which means you need a chip that can do both at the same time using the same channel, or you need two chips which will interfere with each other.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of complications from that point of view. And to be completely honest, putting Matter on your box right now doesn't increase sales at all, because customers have no idea what matters. It's still for the smart home geeks and niche that, cool, it supports Matter. And then there's sort of nothing has really been gained.
Yeah.
So, I would expect that other manufacturers who may be new to the market start utilizing especially Thread then in their products.
Since they don't have like older products that they also need to support.
Yeah, they can start fresh.
Yeah.
But then they have the same problem to solve. Like, do I trust the platform companies like Homey, but also Google Home and Apple to integrate my product correctly? Or do I still need to make my own hub with a Thread radio?
Yeah.
And so it's a big puzzle still.
And for you, Dino, what are your thoughts?
I can't say I appreciate it, honestly.
Yeah.
Because like Emil, I agree. I don't think there's a need to bridge existing devices to Matter. I would say the wise way would be to only produce new devices with Thread and Matter support natively, and not bridge old Zigbee or whatever devices to Matter. But I think it's important to understand that this way companies save on certification fees, because once they certify their hub, they do not have to certify their child devices. So that's I think a lot of corporate decision making is involved in this process that's hidden behind the scenes of a Matter hub. So
that's a great point you're making, because certification for Matter and Thread, those are two certifications, is not cheap. I mean, of course, we have to do it as well.
Yeah.
And if you have so many different SKUs, so different product types, you have to redo it for every product.
To give an example, so if IKEA would, let's say, they would launch a whole new lineup of products which all utilize Matter and Thread, they would have to certify each and every device separately.
Yeah, and maybe they can get a waiver for certifying because they're so similar, but you're sort of dependent on the grace of the CSA, So
so it just brings a lot of costs that you can save by just simply only doing it to your bridge.
Yeah,
since then you only have to pay the certification of your bridge.
Yeah. But I think that the upside of this is that the bridge now fully works locally.
Yeah.
I don't know about the IKEA per se, what the previous situation was, but let's say that was only cloud dependent first.
Yeah.
Then I would say that's a win for the smart home ecosystem, because now you're not dependent on the manufacturer anymore. If they pull the plug or they go bankrupt or whatever, then it's great that it has Matter, and then your product is more future proof in that sense, I would say.
Yeah. No, that's true. And the way I see it as well, it is a really nice way, since if we now want to integrate with a product and we, for example, with Philips Hue, and we, of course, you could integrate bulbs via Zigbee. We can also integrate with their API. I also see Matter for some companies a replacement or addition to their APIs. Just have a simple way to connect your devices to other ecosystems without having to build or maintain an API.
But that's also my fear that companies sort of, we slap Matter on it for the basics. So for lights, let's say, turn on and off and change the brightness and the colors, and we call it a day. Yeah. And we keep all the good stuff, like Philips Hue can blink lights, for example, or do effects, or we keep that for ourselves and our private APIs. Yeah. So whereas in the previous situation, so when we started this company, there were APIs, they were open, they could basically do everything that the manufacturer could do, and we could also do it. then I'm a bit afraid that in the future that maybe Matter is sort of the best you can get out of your devices, and then you have to go to this closed ecosystem of the manufacturer to get those features.
Yeah.
We'll see where that ends up. But,
so it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, and I think we also have to tell our partners and manufacturers that is not that only Matter is not enough. We want to support their full breadth of the products, and because that's usually where the advantage is as well in connecting multiple brands together.
Yeah. I think that also brings us really nicely to the next subject. Of course, at the beginning of last month, we also had IFA. For the people who don't know, in the US, each year you have CES, which is pretty well known internationally, and then you also have IFA. It's in Berlin each year. It's basically the same, a bit smaller.
It's like the smaller brother.
The smaller
German.
brother of CES. Yeah. What we saw there as well, of course, a lot of our partners were there. We were there as well with our team. We didn't have a booth ourselves, but you could see Homey and the LG products at the LG booth.
Yeah, I saw you on YouTube.
Yeah,
at the
was
LG
there
booth.
As well. I spent there a lot of our time talking with partners, showing the new products. But what I saw there as well, for example, with Aqara, one of our partners, is that they are also focusing very heavily on Matter as the way to connect their products to other ecosystems. So we have an integration with Aqara. Their products mostly use Zigbee. But what I now notice with them as well is that they really prefer to just do it over Matter, since they just have to have only Matter, and that way they can work with all the other ecosystems.
Yeah, so, but still limited to what the Matter spec offers, of course.
Exactly. So it's
Aqara has this like FP2 presence sensor, with millimeter wave. It's super cool. But it's not in a Matter spec, so you can't integrate with it. You only get a Boolean like yes or no, there is activity.
That is one of the most requested devices that currently doesn't work with Homey, or it does work
through a workaround. Like
through a workaround with HomeKit, which is a really great app built by one of the community members. But yeah, it just isn't integrated with Matter, and they basically said, we will integrate it with Homey when the Matter update launches. So that's also one of the disadvantages here.
I think many manufacturers are sort of still, especially Aqara, they are also moving to their own hubs, or at least they're trying.
Yeah.
I mean, I have an Aqara lock at home, so I sort of had to use their app to set it up. But also, if you look at tech reviewers, they don't want to use their apps, but the manufacturers think it's very nice that people are using their apps. So you still feel that we haven't solved, as a sort of smart home community, we haven't solved the problem of all these multiple apps yet.
Yeah. Some other partners that we spoke with at IFA is Nanoleaf. Dino, you were there with me at IFA. Nanoleaf announced some new products within their product lineup. But what they also announced is that they will now start using their own Litewave protocol. They call it, to connect their remotes with their lights.
I guess it will be useful for integrating the remotes with the products, but besides that, I don't see any use for it especially since there are so many protocols already established and well established on the market, like Zigbee, Z-Wave, now Matter and Thread, and I don't think it's useful to anybody else but Nanoleaf and their app. Just like Emil said, manufacturers trying to always pull you towards their app and their ecosystem. I don't appreciate that, but is the way of thinking.
Yeah, no, I understand.
What is the reasoning of Nanoleaf to create this?
Well, they didn't say it explicitly. They now use, for their new devices, they're basically all Matter over Thread. They still have some of their new products. They said to me it's dependent on the chipset that they use. That's also with their LAN API, which are and aren't supported. But my guess is that they also want to have like a backup in case Matter doesn't work out or something. That would be my guess. Since I don't see any other reason why they...
Yeah, maybe I can understand. So if you have a switch, a button, and a light bulb, that you still need a third-party hub to actually connect those together. And they want to offer a out-of-the-box experience.
Yeah, that could be as well.
I think. Because you have to onboard your Thread devices to your existing network. Wouldn't
that also have worked via Bluetooth, for example?
Yeah, but the ranges, of course.
Yeah, that's also
I think worse. Maybe it's probably a technical engineering feat, but they're just piggybacking off the same carrier wave as Zigbee and Thread do.
Yeah.
So the 805 5.11 or something standard. And then just send some messages. I don't know. I can understand it from their point of view that they want something very reliable.
I think it's just for consumers, it's really confusing.
Yeah.
Since you see Meta and Thread over everywhere, and they say, "Oh, we now also support Litewave."
It's pretty confusing. Also because there is another company called
That is called
Litewave
Litewave.
RF.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not making it easier.
Which we are now also in contact with. Yeah, they're pretty big in the UK, from what
That's
I...
right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's 43 megahertz stuff.
Yeah, and they
at
also
least.
have their own protocol now, based on 8. So when...
And that's called Lightwave?
Yeah, no. So when Nanoleaf announced it, I was like, oh, they use the same protocol as Litewave does in their products.
Oh, right.
But no, it is different. So confusing.
Well, we're still not there yet.
No, still not there yet. Dino, any other highlights from IFA that you want to mention?
I don't know. I would say IFA was a bit underwhelming compared to last year, but it was still good. Still some cool things to see. I can't say I appreciate the fact that there are so many vacuum cleaners now. Like Roborock has like a million models, and Dreamy has like a million models. It makes the process of choosing good devices difficult, I would say. Other than that,
I guess that
if only we had a solution for that.
That leads us perfectly into the next section, and that's why you're here, Dino. So yeah, what you're saying, when you have a smart home and you are buying devices for your smart home, you of course want to make sure everything works together, that a product supports the features that you want, that they all support each other, like that they can work through Homey in that way.
Yeah, you just want to remove the stress. Like, does it work with Homey?
Exactly.
That's sort of my first barrier to go through.
Yeah, you just want to make sure that it works in a nice way, and that's why we have you, Dino.
Yeah, basically.
Of course, you did a quick introduction about yourself, who you are, what you do. But how did you end up with us? Since you are not based here in the Netherlands.
No, yeah. So I'm from Macedonia. I live here. I work from here, and we got in touch about, I would say, 9 months ago, something like that, maybe 10. And I think it was Stefan. He sent me a sample of the Homey Pro for testing and the review, since I run a personal blog, smart home blog. And he sent me the sample. I tested it. I liked it. And then after like a month or so, I sent him an email. I think it was something I didn't like about the Homey Pro. I don't remember, but it was very, very trivial. And he responded, and we went back and forth like 4 or 5 emails later. And next thing I know, I'm on a video call with Emil. He invited me over to the Netherlands, and here we are. That's it. I noticed there were some gaps on the Homey website. You're always looking for people. And I point blank asked him, "Do you need somebody to take care of this for you?" And he said, "Yes. Can you come do this for us?" And that was it.
We've been looking for someone like Dino for years. Someone that enjoys testing a lot of different smart home products and then writing sort of we call them Best Buy guides, sort of a comparison, like what do I need to buy? So, I want a new motion sensor and there's so many options. Which one should I get? So Dino was absolutely the perfect match.
Yeah, since you already have a lot of experience with a lot of devices because of your own blog, of course. I also see a lot of devices behind you from all kinds of manufacturers.
Yeah, these used to be all in boxes, but now they're up here for the podcast.
Yeah, no, amazing. I like that you put in the effort. But can you walk us through? So when you take a category, what goes into making the Best Buy guide?
So basically, I have this huge, giant spreadsheet. And let's say I settle on a category that I'm doing motion sensors or whatever. And I'm just gonna blindly shoot every manufacturer and model I can think of, then Google some more, trying to find some more models and fill it up with, I don't know, depends on the category, usually 25, 30 models, things like that. And then afterwards, of course, I'm gonna note their characteristics, like if it's a motion sensor, battery type, battery life, protocol, which is essential, of course, manufacturer, quality, and the basically the spreadsheet characteristics of the product. And after
I've
that,
seen his spreadsheets.
yeah,
It's very big.
after that comes the decision making process, I would say.
Yeah.
That involves a lot of Googling, community forums, I would say, and my own personal experiences with the certain products. I would even admit that there are some devices that I have in my Excel sheet that I've tested personally, and even though it's a popular device, it didn't even cross my mind to recommend it to our readers. So yeah,
Yeah. Since you get your hands on so many devices.
yeah, I do.
So with selecting the devices, so what you're saying, you're doing motion sensors. You both look at your personal experience with the devices,
Yes,
but you also have a look at, hey, what does the Homey community think of it?
yes,
What
exactly.
does the rest of the internet think of it?
Yes. Because if an issue is repetitive enough with a certain product, it usually points to something that is an issue actually, and the thing needs to be eliminated. And after the table is done, I I have to limit myself, of course. I can't include 30 products, it's too much. And after I make the final cut, like depends on the category, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, doesn't matter. I prepare all the graphical assets like images, crop them out, tidy them up, and the table icons, decide what's going to be on the table on the website when it goes live. And then comes what I would say is the easiest part for me, writing the actual article from the technical spreadsheet and turning it into text and human readable form.
So actually putting it together is one of the smallest tasks
Yeah,
on the
I would say
list.
yeah. And of course, I have Elmar behind me. Shout out to Elmar because he's our communications manager. He makes sure I stay on track. My sentences are on point. They have flow, and yeah, that's it.
I think it's also good to add that these articles are not sponsored in any
Yeah.
way. So the manufacturers don't have any influence over them. Well, the only influence they have is if it works with Homey,
Yeah.
they can end up in the Best Buy guide.
Yeah, no,
And definitely not the other way around.
I use it all the time. I say, hey, if you want to get mentioned, you better integrate, otherwise you will never end up in the list.
It's absolutely a great argument because the view count for the Best Buy guys is super high.
Yeah.
What I think also is very very nice about it is that it doesn't get mentioned that much on our forums, for example. But when I talk to let's call them regular people, like not the power users, they tell me personally that they love them so much because it makes it so much easier to find their next smart home device. So we really solved the problem for average Joe that wants to get into smart home or expand a little bit.
I would also add here that I always prioritize devices that use local protocols by design. So that's a thing I want to make clear because I always gonna put something in there that's Zigbee, Z-Wave, or now Thread, obviously, before Wi-Fi or I don't know, Bluetooth. Those are tricky protocols to work with, even though the Homey supports them, of course. They're still gonna be pushed back in favor of Zigbee, Z-Wave, and reserve Wi-Fi for the bandwidth devices like cameras and vacuum cleaners and think this must be Wi-Fi.
I think that's also what you're saying for the more regular people. I think that's what the Best Buy guys are also really nice for, is that people just want it to work. They don't know how it works. They just want to make sure it's reliable, that it works, that it works when they want to. And that, they probably don't know the difference between a Z-Wave or a Zigbee or a Thread, but just reading, hey, this one works reliably, the battery life is really good because of it using Zigbee or whatever else.
Or just maybe they scroll through and then see the picture like, oh, I like that design, let's buy that one, because you sort of know that you can make a really bad mistake if it's in the list.
Yeah. So really like it there. And I think what's really interesting as well, of course, we started with the more, I would call somewhat more easy devices, like light bulbs, like
motion sensors.
Motion
was the first,
sensors. Those are pretty easy. But then we also started doing car chargers, washing machines, air conditioners. Is it difficult that it, for example, with washing machines, you don't want to write a review for a washing machine like how good does it wash my clothes? I guess. But you really want to go into, hey, how well does it integrate with my smart
Yeah,
home, right?
yeah, exactly. In that section of our Best Buy guides, which includes the home appliances, we focus heavily on
Yeah,
the ecosystem and not individual models like motion sensors, for example, because it will be
yeah,
impossible to cover. You know, there are so many washing machines and so many models from a certain brand. It would be impossible to cover. So basically, just cover what the ecosystem and app provides for you if you use this brand, and then you can make your pick based off of that. Because there are,
Yeah, I think so. For washing machines, it was more about, so hey, there is the Home Connect
yeah,
yeah,
connectivity
exactly.
part. There's for LG, it's called ThinQ. For Samsung, it's called Smart Things. So you know what to look for. So you first you know, okay, so that's what I need to have to make it connect to Homey, and then you start looking at, can it dry well and that kind of stuff maybe on some other website, right?
yeah. So for the people that know on what temperatures it can do your laundry, that's maybe for another website. But if you want to know how well it integrates with your smart home and what you can
Yeah.
do with it, that's what the Best Buy guides are for.
We have to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think like testing a lot of washing machines isn't really your biggest hobby, right?
No, no, I won't say I know a lot about Washington. I did learn a lot though, writing that guide.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting as well. I think it's, of course, cool. That's also, for me, I always read them since I already have a lot of smart home devices, but since it's kind of addictive having a smart home, I always like reading the Best Buy guides of products that I don't yet have to see, hey, if I would ever want to buy a smart home device in this category, what would be the best option?
That's nice. Just to be sure, people can actually find these Best Buy guides if you go to our website, homey.app. You on desktop, you hover over the Discover item in the top menu, and then there's sort of a banner like Best Buy guides. And on mobile, you tap the hamburger menu, and there's also Best Buy guides.
Have you actually bought a device based on the Best Buy guides already?
Let's see. I definitely read the EV charger Best Buy guide. I ended up with a Tesla charger because it was the cheapest one of all of them. But also because of sort of it did what I needed to do. And I think for the motion sensors, I also read it and bought the Aqara motion sensor based on that.
Yeah, I had it with the air quality sensors.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
I think that's what Dino is also really good for, is getting me in touch with brands that are maybe somewhat less known, but also really good. So yeah, Dino put me in touch with Air Gradient, for example, who also have an Homey app. But after reading the Best Buy guide as well, I decided to buy one since that looked really good. And yeah, I think to get some inspiration there.
Yeah, for sure. For example, if I say like a door window sensor, then you immediately think of Aqara, Vibaro, like the usual suspects. But then there's also the sensitive one, which is very thin strips that you could put between literally the. And you know, I don't follow sensitive on Instagram. I never see them. And then in the Best Buy guide, you sort of find this new device type or this new manufacturer
that you didn't know of yet. Yeah.
So it's great.
It's really great.
when people ask me like business wise, like why do you do this? Do you make money of this? I'm like, no. It's just we like it for ourselves and we think it's useful for our customers.
Yeah, and that's as well. I think for the more regular users in smart home, they still need a bit, like they need to be inspired a bit.
Yeah.
Since for the geeks is always, hey, you see a ordinary object in your home and you can think of 1,000 ways that you can make it smart or automate it. That isn't the case for many of the regular users mostly. But yeah,
Nice.
great work, Dino. I think as well, if people have any categories that they're still missing, leave them in the comments.
Yeah, I think we're nearing the end at least for categorization. Yeah, because there's still a lot of work and continuous work keeping them updated, and products change, they get outdated, they're not sold anymore. So we always go back and edit the articles to recommend something fresher and newer and better and things like that. So
yeah. So feedback is always welcome. Questions in regards to the Best Buy guides always welcome. But yeah, this far, thanks for all the work, Dino. All right, for the last section of the podcast, I wanted to end up with some user questions that we got on the last episode. As I said before, there weren't a lot of questions, since a lot of people were just saying that they're excited about dashboards.
Yeah, the regular one was, when is dashboards coming? So
When is dashboards coming? So maybe we should just stop with
That
the
was it?
podcast. Yeah. But I did manage to find some questions. The first one is from S. Schot on the forum. I think that's how you pronounce it, or Schot with 2 S's in front. He had a question about OTA updates for devices. So for the people who don't know, for both Zigbee and Z-Wave devices, and I think for Matter and Thread devices as well, there is a possibility to update the devices when you
over the air
connect them,
updates.
Yeah, so
that's what OTA stands for.
Exactly, that's what OTA stands for. And he was wondering, hey, does that work with Homey? If not, why not? And is that something that we could add in the future?
Yeah, that's a nice question. It's not the first time we get asked that. Sort of, unfortunately, my answer is still the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so for Zigbee and Z-Wave, on a technical level, it's possible. Without us making something, a community developer can add it to their apps. At least for Z-Wave, that's 100% sure. For Zigbee, I am 90% sure.
Yeah.
The bigger problem is that to update a device, we need the firmware of the device. So that's basically a file like sensor abc.bin or something that we need to send to the device, and we don't have those. There are very few companies who release these files like to us or to others. So we can build like the most amazing OTA system, but if we don't have the firmware files, then it's pretty useless. Might be a chicken and egg problem. Like, if we don't have them,
true.
But when we, and that's mostly you, call the manufacturers, they just reply that they don't want to give out their firmware, because usually they're afraid that sort of people start reverse engineering that. Well, I'm like, how much intellectual property can be in a wall plug firmware? But it's the way it is. For Matter, there might be good news, because Matter standardizes the way that you can install, but also download the firmware files. The manufacturer still has to sort of opt in and upload their firmware to the central Matter database.
So it isn't the case that if you create a Matter device, you need to upload the firmware. That's still a...
Not that I know.
Yeah.
I think it's optional. Because we also don't do it. Maybe for end device, but probably not. Probably not. I think many manufacturers will then say, no, I don't want to do that. So we're sort of waiting until that database is filled enough that it makes sense for us to develop this functionality, because it's very nice if it works. But the same applies here, that we will only actually do that hard work until there are firmwares that we can actually use. Because we always have to spend our time wisely. We can develop dashboards or an OTA firmware. Now, well, then I know what to spend it on.
And I guess that we also just want to integrate something that works well. We're not just integrating something because of integrating it. We want to have it to be a nice user experience.
Exactly. But I do want to stress that Homey itself is not the bottleneck, well, at least for Z-Wave. So if a manufacturer wants to do this, then they can. We can only make it nicer. So maybe part of the onboarding process or something. But it's not technically like we prevent it or something.
So that would be mostly a front end thing. Like it would show up in the user, like in the interface or
exactly. But sending a firmware to a device takes hours. Because these are very low bandwidth protocols. So they basically send you like, here, there's 10 bytes, and then you go to sleep. And you get another 10 bytes, and after a few hours, you're sort of, hey, that's everything I needed. Okay, let's update, and then restart.
Basically, bricks are really possible too, over-the-air updates. It can easily brick a device.
Yeah, it's really easy to brick a device.
That's true. So it's a bit tricky.
And I think that's as well. It's good to note that in the case that we brick a device, we would end up being the ones who effed it up, so to say. And need to fix the problem. So there are a lot of. It's not only a technical thing, but also a political thing. And I think what you're saying with partners, completely true. Of course, we have our talks with Homey, like official partners, and this is a topic that I do discuss with them. Hey, so what I would say is, hey, you are an official partner. What we would like to do is have firmware be officially available for our end users, so that they can use Homey to update the firmware on their devices. What you're saying, we see just with a lot of, I think every partner that I talk with, they aren't very open in sharing the files, and that's just a shame.
Yeah. To be honest, I also think that many manufacturers just don't really know how to sort of send these files.
No.
Many devices get made in China by another company than sort of the main company, or because they don't have their own hub, they've never tried it themselves, so they actually have no clue. So it's I really hope that the Matter thing here becomes more standardized, and that it will be a problem of the past.
Yeah, I know of one example. That's, for example, with Linus Tech Tips, of course, a large YouTuber. He had these Lutron light switches, but he ordered like 70, and half of them came with different firmware, and they didn't.
Ouch.
And they didn't play nicely with the others, and then he just couldn't get the firmware files from Lutron to have them be updated. So he needed to search for a official hub that then did work with ODA updates with Lutron.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, no, it isn't a nice experience, and that's just one of the drawbacks of the protocols, how they work currently.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I think great question. And of course, if there's something that will be changing in the future, we'll of course give an update on that topic. To move on to a next one, and this is a question that was asked before, but also came up with dashboards, and that's managing who has access to what in Homey. So, of course, you have different users. You have a manager, you have a guest, you have a resident within Homey, but it currently isn't really possible to maybe assign devices to different people or lock a dashboard for different people.
Yeah. All right. So I know where this question is going. So maybe I should just answer it like, when is it coming or will it come? This is super, super complex. Imagine the following. We're a family. I give you access to control all the lights downstairs, but not those upstairs. And you can make flows.
Yeah.
So what can you do? You can make a flow that then turns on a light upstairs because it's a different mechanism.
Yeah.
Right. Those are sort of related, but technically speaking, not entirely. So that's already one loophole. And I can think of 20 loopholes with this permission management because Homey is sort of very intertwined. Everything sort of has impact on each other. So we have never found a good way to do permission management on this level. That is not sort of a fake permission management, right? It should be, if we do it, we have to do it right. So even with API access, that is all watertight. And now we have dashboards, which brings some new opportunities.
Yeah.
So one thing that I could see happening in the future. So for starters, we have a feature for dash. Damn it! Now it's not a surprise anymore. No. Yeah. So we have a feature on the roadmap that allows you to pin or sort of open a dashboard in kiosk mode. That's sort of the technical term. I will probably call it pin dashboards or something. And then you have to enter a pin to actually exit the dashboard. So you go to dashboards, you sort of open the context menu, then open dashboard in kiosk mode. Then you have to enter a pin, like 1, 2, 3, 4 or something. And then you can only close the dashboard when you know the pin. If you kill the Homey app and you restart it, then the dashboard will open again. So you're sort of locked in. If you uninstall the Homey app and you install it, then you have to log into the Homey app again. So that's sort of your security permission. Now, we primarily want to develop this for the use case where your dashboard is hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
And you don't want to give your family members sort of your access because you're logged into the Homey app. Or for let's say an Airbnb, maybe a hotel. So those kind of situations. And that will then work together with the operating systems. Sort of way of locking to a single app. So on iOS, this is called guided access. So you can actually lock an app, and then Homey takes it from there and locks the dashboard. So it's sort of a two-phase system.
So yeah, I could see this working very well. For example, when I was on vacation, and some family members watched over my home, I now would give them access to the full Homey, for example. But what
Mhm.
I could do is just have an iPad in the home that's logged to a dashboard where they can find every device that they need to interact with,
Yeah,
and they can only use those devices.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's for a dashboard that's on a tablet that's sort
Yeah.
of shared. But the number one request for this permission management we got was for parents with children.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And children are a bit of a different story. So what we found out that you could now do if we have this kiosk mode working, you can just create a guest account for
Mhm.
your kid. They don't even need to know the password. You just sign them in on their device, and you can create a dashboard for them. You can do that on your device or on their device, and then you just pin it on their device. So the only way they can access Homey is through that dashboard.
Yeah, exactly.
And that way you can really fine tune the permissions that the kid can actually use their Homey for. Because whatever you put on the dashboard, they can control, but everything else they can't get there in the app, so they can't control it.
Oh yeah, no,
So
I
it's-
think that's a very nice way of implementing it. What you're saying, that way they can interact with the device they need. You don't have the risk of them breaking your flows, breaking your Homey, breaking your
Exactly,
home.
because they have guest access, they can only start flows and
Yeah.
control the devices. They can change the settings. Of course, I understand that it's sort of a workaround,
Mhm.
but the real problem is that permission management in a insta smart home is
It's
super
hard.
complex
Yeah.
or even impossible, I would say. So I think this is a great, well, call it a workaround or solution, but for people who are really struggling with this.
Now I think that would be a very nice solution there, to solve this issue, to improve the situation. I
Yeah,
think that would-
improve the situation.
that might be nice nice wording there. Yeah, I think that's mostly it for the questions that we had on the podcast. So hopefully, since we dashboards is now there, of course you can still say that you love dashboards in the comments, but
We like those comments.
please leave your comments, so that we have some stuff to talk about next week as well. We love to answer your questions here on the podcast. I want to thank Dino for tuning in all the way from Macedonia.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was awesome to talk about my work. Pretty dope.
Really awesome to have you there. And as said earlier, if you have any suggestions for the Best Buy guide, leave them in the comments as well.
I would offer an advice here for our listeners and viewers, and that would be, don't be brand loyal, because just because one company makes a certain type of product good or great, it doesn't mean it would make another device type good or great. So pick whatever works for you and whatever matches your use case the best. And always prioritize local protocols. I think the smart home works best when it's completely local.
Good thing that you mention it.
I would say there's only one brand you should be loyal to.
And that's Homey, of course. Of course.
Agree.
At least we admit we're not perfect, but we really try to make it better.
We try. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Dino. Great to have you here.
Thanks, Abe. Thanks for having me. I'm waiting for my new Iron Man shirt, because this is on the side. I want it in the middle right here.
Of course.
Please send me one.
We'll get you some other shirts as well. Thank you, Dino. And then, for all the people at home, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And see you next month in the Homey podcast. Amazing.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.